evening, everyone, and thank you for tuning in live tonight for our July episode of Real Talk. Real Talk is a monthly show hosted by the Living Legacy Foundation of Maryland that focuses on topics within the field of organ donation and transplantation. My name is Melanie Sumlin, and I'm the Clinical Supervisor of Organ Recovery at the LLF. I have the pleasure of introducing you to our moderator for the evening, Marty Marin. Each month, Real Talk will be moderated by one of our Donate Life ambassadors, all who have a special connection to donation and or transplant. Marty is the president of Transplant Recipients International Organization, TRIO, of Maryland, and served on the TRIO National Board of Directors. He received a liver transplant in November 2009 at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. In addition to volunteering for Living Legacy Foundation and local transplant centers, he is a member of Team Maryland and has been to 4 Transplant Games of America and 2 World Transplant Games. He also serves as a mentor to the transplant recipients. Marty and his wife have been married for 22 years and enjoy gardening, traveling, and spending time with family and friends. I'll now turn the show over to you, Marty.
Well, thank you, Melanie. Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to host this evening's Real Talk episode. I'm especially excited because, as you may know, I am a member of Team Maryland and have attended multiple transplant games. Every 2 years, Team Maryland gathers with thousands of transplant recipients, living donors, donor families, individuals on the waiting list, caregivers, transplant professionals, supporters, and spectators for the world's largest celebration of life. During this truly unique and inspiring week, U.S. state teams and international teams compete in athletic and recreational competitions. There are also special events held throughout the games meant for all attendees to enjoy. These events not only serve as an opportunity to engage with one another and share stories, but it celebrates donors who gave their selfless gift of life. At the transplant games, recipients can show the world that having a transplant is truly a second chance at a full, productive, and inspiring life. They get a chance to display to their donor families what their gift means to them. Tonight, we will hear from 3 people who have been impacted by donation and transplantation. We will learn how the transplant games have enhanced their lives. First, we have Norm Biondi. Norm is the chairman of the board and co-founder of Emily's Gift, Inc. It was founded in 2016, shortly after the passing of Emily Biondi. Emily's Gift awards scholarships to inbound and current college students with connections to organ donation and transplantation, as well as students majoring in performing arts. Norm is Emily's father and was her kidney donor. We are dedicating this podcast in honor of Emily Biondi in celebration of her life on her birthday today. Then we have Sierra Albin. Sierra is a Donate Life ambassador, member of Team Maryland, and founder and CEO of the Sienna 7 Foundation. The foundation was launched in 2016 to honor her late daughter, Sienna, who became a cornea and tissue donor at the age of 7 years old. The foundation provides support services to donor families and scholarships to attend the National Transplant Games. Welcome, Sierra. Danette Reagan. Danette is a registered organ donor, a 2-time kidney recipient, and a 3-time donor family member. She received her first kidney from a deceased donor in 2008, and her second from a living donor, her daughter Angel, in 2016. She is a volunteer Donate Life ambassador with the Living Legacy Foundation, and she helps conduct faith-based outreach and serves on the ethics committee. She is also a member of the Veterans Transplantation Association, TRIO Maryland, and captain of Team Maryland. Welcome, Danette. Well, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. And I'm glad we could get together to share these unique stories and reasons for attending the transplant games. So why don't we get started? The first question for you, Norm. how did you first hear about the transplant games?
Well, thanks, Marty. Emily and I first heard about the transplant games shortly after her transplant at the University of Maryland Hospital, and we were put in touch with Latrice Price at the Living Legacy Foundation, and Latrice pretty much steered us in from there.
Okay, well, that sounds like a good way to get involved. Danette, how about you?
I too, as well as Norm, my nephew passed away in 2012, and when they did the questionnaire to see whether or not he was eligible to become a donor, I told them I was interested in volunteering because I was also a recipient, and they connected me with Latrice, and Latrice tried to coax me in. I took my time, but finally in 2014, I went to my first game.
Well, thank you very much, Danette. This one's for you then. Let's start with you, Danette.
Oh.
Where were your first games, and what was your impression, and what was your favorite memory?
Oh boy, my first game I went as a donor family in 2014. First badge, look at there. And it was just, I was in awe. There were so many individuals who were there who celebrated just like I was. We celebrated the passing of our loved one and the organs being given to other people, and a lot of recipients. One of the biggest things that I really loved about the games was there were so many people all over the United States that came to join together as one.
Well, thank you. Norm?
Well, for us, it was the transplant games in Louisville, Kentucky in 2006. That was our first, and one of my, well, actually two big memories. One is that the very first event, it's usually held that Saturday morning, is the 5K run, and that's open to the public as well as the athletes and participants. So Emily and I had a chance to run together, and we crossed the finish line at the same time. What wasn't seen behind the scenes is me sort of egging her on. She didn't really like that whole sweating thing, but that was wonderful. She wound up getting a third place medal in her category. She also had a chance, I believe at that one, if I'm not mistaken, to sing at the opening for everybody. So that was a big deal for us.
Well, thank you very much. The one thing I learned about track and field, I'd rather be bowling. They have air conditioning. Danette and Norm, what sporting events do you participate in? How did you physically and mentally prepare for the games as a recipient and living donor? Norm?
Well, I was going to let Danette go first because she's the real thing. She's a recipient.
And she's tough to follow, though, Norm.
I know.
Well, I participated in bowling. I love to bowl. Can't bowl very good, but I love to bowl. I am also the Team Maryland cheerleader. And I also was trying to do volleyball, but I pulled something in my knee and couldn't do so. So I assisted Mike Butler as his assistant coach in volleyball and basketball. Enjoyed it immensely. I do want to say when my first games in Houston in 2014, as we watched the basketball team for Team Maryland, I remember a couple of people who played so hard. One individual sat in a puddle where he had sweated so much because it was so hot, but we enjoyed and had a good time the entire time.
Thank you.
And I agree with the bowling alley being air conditioned. Especially in Houston.
Houston was tough. Sierra?
Hi guys, how are you?
Good evening. Glad you were able to join us.
It's real, guys. Real internet issues. Real talk.
Norm, anything else to add?
Well, yeah, on because actually I've worn a couple of hats. One is as an assistant coach for track and field for Maryland before living donors were allowed to compete in their own categories against other living donors. That particular, and of course, I represented Team Maryland. The first games where that happened was the Grand Rapids games in 2012. So how I prepared for it was I strategically decided to give up eating potato chips and drinking beer. And that seemed to help a little bit. But I did get a chance to once again run in the 5K, played racquetball, some of the track and field events, the dashes. But they also had Texas Hold'em, which came, I think, later. That might have been Houston. Oh, no, that was actually Salt Lake City, as well as cornhole. So there are plenty of things for all athletes, as well as living donors who pretend to be athletes to do. So,
Well, thank you very much. Sierra, I'm going to bounce back at you for a question. Sierra,
right.
as a donor family, what is it like to be in the presence of so many people that have been given a second chance of life by someone like your loved one?
It's a really humbling experience. It's actually, you don't realize how grateful people are for that second chance of life until you're in a setting like that. And it's beautiful to see that people that are given that second chance of life really live their life to the fullest. They are so full. They're so grateful for donor families. It's just unbelievable.
Well, thank you very much. This question's for Danette and Norm. We'll start off with Danette again. What was your mental and emotional thoughts after participating for the first time?
Elated. I was extremely elated because I, again, meet so many people who were dealing with the same issues that we were dealing with as a donor family, but then also elated that someone's loved one was okay to say, we will go ahead and give our organs so that this person can extend their life. My life was extended because someone said yes. And sorrowful that the person passed, but she still lives on in me today.
Thank you. Norm?
could you repeat the question again?
I'd be glad to.
Yeah.
What was your mental and emotional thoughts after participating for the very first time?
Well, for the very first time, I guess our family participated by watching Emily do her events while she was still living. So that's one perspective. And then the other perspective would be with me participating as a living donor. But one quick story I'd like to share, because it really has burned a place in my brain and my heart. I believe it was Pittsburgh where I was coaching the 4x100 our girls team, which was a 4x100 relay race. And our team was kind of the little engine that could. They took coaching instructions very well. We weren't particularly a fast team, but we knew how to not get in trouble and not cause a default. So long story short, we wound up taking the third place medal, and that was just a huge surprise to everybody, myself included. So on the stand, the team that came in first, I believe, was Southern California, a perennial strong team, and the ceremonies were stopped because a man walked up to the podium and announced to everybody that his daughter, who had passed, I believe it was his daughter, her heart was in the girl from Southern California, and she was standing right next to our participant who had the lungs from that same donor.
Oh.
So there wasn't a dry eye in the place after that. A lot of hugging and everything, but that just shows us how important these games can be emotionally and certainly.
Well, thank you, Norm.
That's all I got, Marty.
That's okay. Sierra, this one's for you. What type of activities are there for donor families to participate in at these games?
So when I went to Salt Lake City for the first time, a lot of the events for donor families were pretty limited, but there's numerous workshops. There's quilt squares that you can make to honor your loved one. And a quilt square is, it actually gets sewn onto a huge quilt, and it's actually transported from state to state, and it goes through all the games. And it's just a great way to honor, your loved one. There are workshops to help you deal with grief. You meet so many people. You always feel like, I lost a loved one, I'm by myself, but you're not by yourself. But now donor families can actually participate in the dancing competition. So I'm coming for you. I won a medal. So I will be entering the dance competition in 2022. Kobe Jones, call me. I need a dance partner.
Thank you so much. Sierra, I have one more question for you. As a donor family, share with us your thoughts of the games and touch on the ceremony of remembrance at these games.
The ceremony of remembrance is extremely emotional. You can't believe some of the stories that have come from people, and it is a great way to honor your loved one. You always feel like, which was always my biggest fear when my daughter passed, was I don't want anybody to forget her. She's not forgotten. If there's no donor families, there's no recipients. That's not always the case, of course, with living donors. There are living donors out there, but most donors are, deceased donors. So everyone is so grateful, and that's why we're even there. There's no transplant games without donors.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Sarah. And Sarah, just so you know, there isn't a day in my life that goes by that I don't think of my donor family. Norm, you have attended the World Games. How are they different from the U.S. Games?
Well, as the title would imply, the World Games are for transplanted athletes throughout the world, and they're held where the U.S. Games are on the even years. I hope I have this right. On the even years, the
right.
World Games are on the odd years, so it's every other year. The World Games seem to be more competitive. There is certainly a nationalistic flavor because of how many different countries are represented, and when you walk in, you're walking in with your country, just like in the Rio Olympics, and so it's kind of a big deal. The athletes seem to be more focused, and in many cases, perhaps slightly more athletic. In some cases, the countries that were participating actually had qualifications for athletes to make the team in their various events. With the United States, that is, and I'm proud to say it's not our case. Anybody that wants to go can go and have a great time, because ultimately it's still about getting the word out and showing how incredible transplantation is and how people can meet each other. One of the things that I don't know has come up, and it's kind of like we talk about the pins, and Danette seems to have mastered the art of collecting pins from the U.S. Games. So the pins are also done in the World Games, and there's like a thriving behind the scenes, under the bleachers, all these secret places where you can go to try to make deals for pins. So that in itself is fun. But mainly it's the interaction with athletes from other countries. Emily was fortunate enough to participate in 2 games, and the World Games are only open athletically to transplant recipients. There are no categories for literally also-rans like living donors. And Emily made a lot of friends that she actually visited after the games were over in other countries, Wales, Tunisia, back in the day when you could travel. So,
Well, thank you, Norm. Then Ed, I have a question for you. We're going to go back to something you mentioned earlier. Could you explain the pin exchange for somebody that's never been there before?
Oh, yes.
Oh man.
And how we are going to buy a red jacket so people can see you coming?
Well, actually, I have to give my homage to George Franklin. He was the one who told me about trading pins. But when I got to the 2014 games in Houston, I noticed that people were saying trading this pin, trading that pin. And I was walking up and down with my Team Maryland pins in my bag. And I said, trading Team Maryland pins. And people started flocking to me. And they said, Maryland has the best pins. So I decided that, I was going to make my sign and carry my sign. And we were in this big dining room. And in the dining room, I held my sign up high and people started flocking to me again. So this is a poster that I made in 2014. I will continue to make. I wanted to show this one. I don't know if you can really see it or not, but let me get it there. It's one for a donor family. And I received that one in 2014. It holds very dear and near to my heart because now I have 3 donor family members who have been donors. And when I first went, as I stated, Martez was the first. So during the 2016 games, we went out and purchased bands and gave those as well as pins to our 2 different individuals. But trading the pins, oh boy, some of the difficult ones to get, I think, are Puerto Rico. What is it? Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Hawaii, definitely.
Hawaii is really extreme. If you get a Hawaiian pin, you're lucky. I don't think I ever gotten one. I would love one. So if anyone from Hawaii is listening, remember doing that from Team Maryland.
The one thing that I remember about the pin program is everyone wants to run up and just grab one out of your fingers. Michelle and I kind of made it a project that when somebody came up and asked for a pin, they had to identify themselves and tell us where they were from and what organ or reason that they were at the transplant game. So we used it as an opening device to have additional conversation with a stranger. So that's what we used them for. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to add something.
We have crab hats, and I'm sorry I didn't have mine on tonight, but they have different hats from different states, and you trade those as well.
Yeah,
you're right. And as Norm said, even in the World Games, people will trade their uniforms.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, final question, and we're going to start off with Sierra. What do you think it says about the strength and resilience of a transplant recipient that they can overcome their health challenges and a major procedure and still compete at this high level?
I think it's absolutely incredible. And before I was a part of Team Maryland, I had no idea, that anybody that had a transplant could participate in the games. They are cleared by doctors before they go. But I think if you don't know, you just assume, oh, that person has a transplant, they can't do anything. That is not true. Some people that have transplants have way more energy than me. And it is crazy to see. You're talking about long competitions, long hours, but it is fun. I mean, 1:00 in the morning, they're still out there playing, and you're starting at 8:00 in the morning. It's absolutely crazy. I'm like, I'm going to bed and I have all my original parts. So I commend you guys. I applaud you guys. I think you guys are great.
Well, thank you for those kind words. Norm, what do you think?
Well, as Sierra was talking, I couldn't help thinking about something called the diaper dash. And that is for little kids who have had transplants. It's a 25-yard dash and open. I think the ages are maybe 2 or younger, in various age categories. But it is so incredible to watch these little kids running. And they're only supposed to go 25 yards, but the race I watched, someone forgot to stop them. They just kept running.
Keep going.
So they got about 50 yards behind them before their moms and dads caught up with them. So it just tells you that literally people of all ages, regardless of the sorts of transplants that they've had, can benefit from this. And there is a sport there of some sort for anybody and everybody.
Mhm.
Danette? That's beautiful, Danette. Will you please explain to everyone that joins our team, they'll have to be required to wear one?
Yeah.
At all.
Oh my
If it
gosh.
fits your head, if it doesn't fit your head, we will improvise for you.
Yeah, we will make your head smaller. Yes.
Yeah. But these are a hot commodity when we go to the games. So we all have hats to give out.
Yep, buy extras.
Exactly. They're good traders.
Mhm.
Well, is there any final thoughts, guys, before we sign off tonight? Would you like to say any closing remarks?
I'd like to say that the crabs and the crabettes are coming and see you all in. We're going to arrive in San Diego looking for you guys. Please, if you have any trading pens, again, look out for us and we'll be willing to trade our hats, our pens, even our uniforms after we take them off.
Well, I want to touch on what
Okay.
Danette said with the uniforms and the pen trading. Of course, I've only been to one games, but let me tell you, I was so green. Everybody tried to warn me how ridiculous this pen trading is. And I was like, okay, guys, like it can't be that deep. They said, no, I'm telling you, we got off the plane.
Mhm.
All the teams from all over are coming in at the same time. And people are like, oh, you're from Maryland? I need your pen. And I'm like, who are you? I literally was at the opening games and this man said, I need your socks. And I'm like, what? They don't care. I said, I'm wearing them. He said, I don't care. I'm like, sir, it's 95 degrees outside. My feet stink. They're sweaty. They don't care. He said, I will give you whatever you want, whatever pen you want, if you just give me your socks.
Yeah.
It gets to be insane. But I became so obsessed. I had every pen, including Hawaii. Sorry, Danette, by day 2. Because now I'm a nutcase and I will harass you. You can be eating at a restaurant and somebody will come to your table. They do not care. They wait for you outside of your hotel. It's nuts. It is absolutely crazy.
To top that, they'll even ask for it in the men's room. So I would love to give a commercial for Team Maryland because we are always looking for a few good men and women.
Yes.
And the qualification is basically if you can fog a mirror, we will take you. We will teach you what you need to know.
Absolutely.
You will have fun.
And something just to add, we're always looking for supporters as well. I think when I went to Salt Lake City, we had something crazy like 45 supporters with us. You know, somebody that, you know, is not a recipient or a living donor, just to be out there and support you. And we're all, like he said, we're always looking for people. There are scholarships available. Living Legacy does, and Team Maryland does afford 2 scholarships to people to go. And then the CNS7 Foundation also affords 2 scholarships to donor families, because I want more donor families to have that same life-changing experience that I had. The support is unmatched. So please reach out if you guys have questions and apply for those scholarships. There's money out there. We just want everybody to be there and have that continuous support.
There's a scholarship for Emily's Gift and also a
Yes.
Mike Hagan scholarship.
Yes.
So there is
it's
plenty of money to assist in going. And each year, every year after I leave a game, I start saving for the next game when we go. So looking for you, as we heard once before, San Diego, Maryland's coming for you. Oh, and Tommy's making me a cornhole so that I can learn how to cornhole.
Make sure it's the right size.
I think he measured very well. I was trying to buy one, but he measured it pretty good.
That has become a serious sport, I can tell you.
Yes.
And it's something that we all can do.
Yep.
I'll be doing it. If I lose, fine. It's all fun for me.
Well, if you lose, just hit time on the bean bags.
The one thing I like to say before we close, I know it's amazing when we get together with our Team Maryland and with our trios and the Living Legacy groups, but there is nothing more breathtaking than flying into a city and seeing 4,000 to 5,000 people that are just like you and me. So it's just an overwhelming experience. You have to give it a try at least one time. But I want right now at this time, I'd like to thank all of you so much for joining us tonight. I'm so glad we got together during the Transplant Games of America's virtual games to talk about why we support and attend the Transplant Games. I hope that everyone watching tonight feels very empowered and encouraged to join Team Maryland or your local transplant team wherever you are. And if you noticed at the bottom of the screen, it's very easy to find out additional information. You can send an email to teammaryland@thellf.org, and there we are on the screen. And if you would like to know where to locate your local team because you're out of the state, please go to www.transplantgamesofamerica.org. I want to thank each and every one of my panelists tonight. Danette, thank you very much. Norm, Sierra, I want to thank everyone who joined us tonight. We appreciate you spending your Thursday evening with us. And be sure to tune in next month for the August episode, Waiting for the Call, Stories from Waitlist Candidates. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Right.